I will start with Janos as first, and I try to make one to Janos and one to Jose. And the first question is, does EFSA set the health claims from the data of a chronic disease such as cardiovascular disease, or does EFSA consider it as a medicinal claim?
As a rule, of course, the effect of food on cardiovascular disease will be treated as a medicinal claim, but we had some exemptions. So, for example, in relation to cardiovascular diseases, we had some applications which were related to diminishing of blood pressure. And we use the evidence coming from studies with patients with high normal blood pressure of a mild hypertension, but under the condition that the patients were not treated by medicinal substances. So they were treated only by the food being the subject of the claim. So I would say usually no, we do not use the evidence from diseased people, but with some exceptions. And with cardiovascular the cardiovascular diseases, the exception is for example this high blood pressure, but without any pharmacological treatment.
Thank you very much. I go for a question for Jose, and the question is, could you please explain better what is the corona effect and how it could be affect the risk assessment of nanomaterials?
Okay. The corona effect is what happens in the immediate surface of the nanoparticles, because there is a superficial, as I told you, there is a superficial interaction, or it's very reactive. So the organic molecules around the particles have usually some attraction on the surface, and then there is the formation of that corona of organic molecules on the surface. That is what we call corona effect, and obviously it will be affecting the interaction of this whole new, let's say, somehow new particle formed by the core and the organic materials on the surface. Obviously it will be affecting its behavior, for instance the interaction with microorganisms or with cells or so on.
Thank you very much, Jose. Go back to health claims. There are two very similar questions on the process of issuing a regulation after the risk assessment. And for instance, there is a question, as an antioxidant claim is not enforced in the EU, and that's probably this is a second question. So how is the process? Probably the two questions are focusing on this point. From the assessment to the regulation on a health claim?
Generally, the process starts from the applicant who starts the process because he is interested in a special health claim. Then it's approved by the special authority in the member states, which sends the application to EFSA, and EFSA UpDesk registers the application. When it is validated technically, everything is correct from technical point of view, it is validated for scientific evaluation. So then it is all the studies and all the applications are discussed several times by the working group on claims. Usually one or more stop-the-clock letters for clarification are sent to the applicant. In those stop-the-clock letters, main issues related or possible issues are are pointed out. And then the final opinion is made firstly by the working group, then it goes to the panel. When it is also discussed, it is adopted by the panel after first hearing or after second hearing. Still, the process is very fast because EFSA has only 5 months for the assessment of health claims. So we should issue an opinion within the period of 5 months. Then the opinion is published, so it is publicly available. You can check every opinion in the internet. But then the process of authorization still is going. So it is discussed by the member states, by the Commission, and there are also some issues which are solved by the Commission. So there are some examples of health claims which obtained positive opinion from EFSA and which were not authorized. For example, it was a claim on glucose and some mental functions. So, for example, attention and some others. And scientifically, it was proved that glucose is good for attention. So EFSA issued positive opinion, but it was not authorized by the Commission because the Commission and the member states treated this claim as a claim which tried to increase the intake of glucose, intake of simple sugars throughout the population, European population, which will be not favorable from the wider point of view.
Thank you very much. Next question arises from Akili Gavri, and the question is, nanoparticles can also be used for the incorporation of natural antimicrobials, correct? In this case, they are considered as food additives. Do you have to assess their risk on the human health? So I saw that there was a slide that you skipped rapidly, Jose, but you can address the point now.
Yes, it has to be assessed, the safety of these nanoparticles as antimicrobials. In fact, this is one of the initial application of nanomaterials. The use of antimicrobials, and now they are under the focus because of the potential health problems. For instance, nanosilver can be accumulated in testes and brain because of this let's say, the facility to penetrate the human tissues. So it's under all these nanomaterials or nanoproducts or nano additives have to be evaluated, yes, with the same risk assessment, yes, with the same process. I don't know if I understood properly the question. I think I answered it, but I don't know. Yes, Sandro?
I think so. Perfect. And we have another question that deals with the health claims and relates to the geographical indication and the concept of sustainability. So do you think that the health claims can be liable to be considered also as sustainable claim? So it's a sort of different vision. Clearly, this question is for Jans.
I think that the regulation on health claims is a specific regulation. So in the characterization of the product, in fact, I don't recall such a claim, such a application which was based on geographical place of origin of the food, but I can imagine that it could be. So I would say it depends on the claim and specific claim. So for example, if we've got a food which contains, that's imaginary, quite high amount of calcium, and the claim will be that it's good for the strength of your bone. So that would say, okay, this claim of coming from then we place geographical location, is really high of calcium. This may be helpful, but anyway, we should also, in the application, there should be an information about what is the real content of calcium in this specific food and what is the variability. So this information is needed for the assessment of health claims.
Thank you very much. Last question for the time, and is for Jose. And the question relates is when nanomaterials are used as immobilization materials of enzymes.
Yeah.
So how the assessment is made in this case?
Well, the key question is if the nanomaterial ends up in the final product, processed product. So this is the first step in the assessment. If the nanomaterials ends up in the final product, then we have an added nanomaterial in that product that will finally be in contact with human beings, and then it will fall under the nanomaterial regulation. If the nanomaterial used for immobilization doesn't migrate to the final fruit, to the final product, or is not present in the final product because it's removed from the food. In fact, I remember one nanomaterial made of silver that was removed by filtration in one application in Spain. If the nanomaterial doesn't end up in the final product, it will skip the application of the guidance that I presented to you. In fact, it's the same case as in the case of the packaging materials. If the nanomaterial is present in the packaging material but is not migrated to the food, then it's not necessary to follow the scientific risk assessment guidance for nanomaterials.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to close this morning section. Let me really thank Jan Stock and Jose Barat for their presentation, and also all the students that make a number of questions very interesting and very focused on the two presentations. Thank you very much, and see you in the next sections of this summer school.